Hi guys, how you doing? Jack Small of Animation Station here again, in the flesh, I know is rare for these episode reviews, but, I felt it was necessary to do it for this one, because not only is it a double-length special, but, we're coming to the end of the episode reviews. After this, we only have a 3-episode discussion with my buddy Spider Phantom, and then a review of the SpongeBob movie. And then the 2 Purple Lamp games, and then we're done with SpongeBob until June. So, yeah, this is a big one to say the least. The Sponge Who Could Fly. I've had very mixed opinions on this special for the longest time that I can remember. As a kid, it bored the crap out of me. As a teenager, I outright hated it. Now, watching it again as a young adult, I think it is okay. Not bad, not good, just okay. And I'm going to tell you exactly why in this special double-length review of Sponge Who Could Fly, the final pre-movie SpongeBob special. So, this special starts off, as it does always, with Patchy. After the narrator, of course. After the narrator tells us about how a lost SpongeBob episode was discovered in the desk of an employee at Nickelodeon Studios, yada yada yada. And then it goes straight into Patchy, and Patchy admits, in the shower, by the way, that he lost the lost episode of SpongeBob, so he's obviously a mess. And then he gets hit with a brick, which gives him the map to the lost episode. And the treasure hunt is my first highlight of this special. Like, I really enjoy the little treasure hunt we have here. Not only is it kind of a compilation of a bunch of promo clips from this episode that they had leading up to it, because they treated this like a grand big finale for SpongeBob, even though it's not the last episode of the season. But yeah, I really liked it. Especially, I love the gag about the 7 trials of Monkey Lagoon, I believe it's called. The 7 trials of Monkey Lagoon, where it's just a playground. Like, it's so over the top and ridiculous, but it's so funny. And then he finds the lost episode, and he puts it in, he's all excited, and then it turns out to be a walk cycle. A bunch of cheap walk cycles. And my second highlight of the episode is also a Patchy part, because I think this is actually Patchy's best performance out of all these specials. Pre-movie and post-movie. Because I just love the way that he's portrayed here. He's upset with himself for losing the lost episode, and then he gets to go on a treasure hunt to find it, and then he finds it, and then he has a complete mental breakdown over his disappointment, because he was so hyped and excited for this episode, only for it to be a bunch of cheap walk cycles, which I feel like is an in-joke about how some people set their expectations too high and get constantly disappointed over things, and how that disappointment can turn into anger. Like, it's probably not that deep, I'm just overthinking it, but it's funny. It is, needless to say, pretty funny. Sorry for the glare, my blinds don't help for crap. Anyway, moving on. Then after that, after Patchy's little freak out, and he starts to head out because he says he's going to run away because he's done with SpongeBob. He feels betrayed. And then Patchy is like, hey, get back in here, stupid. The lost episode hasn't even started yet. And then it literally just rewinds everything that just happened, and his faith in SpongeBob is restored. And then we finally get to the SpongeBob part of this special. The episode itself, The Sponge Who Could Fly. And it starts out instantly enough. We have SpongeBob chasing jellyfish as always. I like the gag about him literally being a spring as he chases the jellyfish and then dives off a cliff trying to chase it, which happens a few times in this episode. And then, after a weird gag that has one of the many, many unnecessary, annoying butt jokes in this episode, SpongeBob starts to feel, well, envious about the jellyfish, about how they can fly and how they don't have to be tethered to the ground like he does. And this leads to the song, one of the 3 songs in this episode. And it's a really nice song. Like, it's really nice. It's very low tempo. And the way SpongeBob's voice actually soars over that whimsical instrumentation is so beautiful. Like, it is such a really nice and pretty song. And then he becomes determined to learn how to fly. So he builds a flying machine, in this case, an airplane. And Patrick laughs at him, which is out of character. I do like the Grandpa SquarePants gag, where he's like, "Hey, I'm not your grandpa." Patrick is great in this episode, aside from that one part where he laughs in SpongeBob's face. And then SpongeBob tries to fly the plane, and it just spontaneously doesn't work. Like, I don't know how it didn't work. It looked like it was about to, but then it just, it falls to pieces and slashes a hole in Old Man Jenkins' mill. So, and then Old Man Jenkins scares him off, and then Patrick's like, "I think we better do what he says. He knows how to grow food." Patrick's great in this episode, aside from that one part where he laughed at SpongeBob. And then SpongeBob's second attempt to learn how to fly, he makes a bat suit. And then we get the second of the most unfunny, forced butt jokes in the episode. And then at first it starts working. He's flapping his arms, which have these like wings attached to them. And it looks like it's working, and then he gets tired and falls to the ground. And then Patrick, even though he's not on fire, Patrick just sprays him with the fire extinguisher anyway. It's so good. And then for the third attempt, SpongeBob decides, well, let's just try something simple. Let's take a lawn chair and tie balloons to it. And he has a brick to lay it down. But that fails because he takes off the brick and he's not on it, so it just flies up, and away. And then for his fourth attempt, he decides he ties himself to a kite, and then he ties the kite to a bike that Patrick drives around. And at first it works pretty well. And then the kite collapses in on itself, and SpongeBob, well, he fails again. And then when he goes to return the kite, it turns out that he's now being called a lunatic by everyone around him. Which I feel like is kind of like an in-commentary about how some scientists are treated like lunatics by chasing their dreams. Like, I don't know. Again, maybe I'm just thinking too deep about it, but that's just how it feels to me. And then we have the townspeople laughing at SpongeBob. And the townspeople nearly ruin this whole freaking episode, because, pardon my language here, but I absolutely f***ing hate the townspeople in this episode. They're hypocritical, they're annoying, and all they do is make fun of SpongeBob over and over and over. And it gets so tiring. Like, seriously, just the freaking... Yeah, just the townspeople. Come right to hell. They are the worst part of this whole episode. I hate them so much. And their writing is just awful. So after being laughed at, SpongeBob is then driven off a cliff because he talks about how it's his dream and how he should be allowed to chase dreams. And then townspeople are like, "We all had dreams. What makes you so special?" Just, they piss me off. And then they drive SpongeBob off the cliff, for where they do the Looney Tunes gag again about being over thin air and then falling for the second time. And this time he falls into a mud truck, and then he falls into a feather truck. And then after that, he gives up and just goes back to his normal life. And after a very dated reference to the absolutely cringy and god-awful Yo Mama meme that was floating around at the time, SpongeBob puts his hair dryer in his pants, and that inflates his pants and allows him to actually fly. And at first it looks like it's really working. And again, this is also where the second song of the episode comes in. It's not really a musical, but there are 3 songs. And the second song is also really good, but not as good as the starter. This one's a bit more frantic. This one tries to be a bit more theatrical. And I don't think it quite works as well. I mean, Tom Kenny's singing is always great. Except when he's purposely told to sing off-key, then he's just cringy. But his singing here is really good. This track just feels a bit too bouncy, and the way it just keeps shifting all over the place, like when he has to save Mrs. Puffcat from a tree. That part sounds very theatrical, because then the whole thing slows down. She's like, I had her since I was a little girl. Like, it works, but it's so over the top and theatrical. And then he talks about saving Mr. Krabs' dime from the top of a roof, which is a nice, funny little one-note gag. And then there's also the way the song ends, not the episode, the song ends, where he saves Plankton, who gets trapped in kelp. I don't even know how that happened, but it happened and it's funny. But then SpongeBob starts getting overweighed down with favors after he then saves the lighthouse. When the light goes out, SpongeBob flies up and he changes the light bulb. But yet Old Man Jenkins crashes into a rock anyway. And then after that, SpongeBob starts getting overworn with favors. Like, Patrick asks him to rub his tummy, Krabs asks him to, clean his garage. And then SpongeBob just gets overwhelmed with favors to the point where he just wants to leave. But then the townspeople once again think that they feel entitled to making him do favors over and over and over, despite the fact that SpongeBob is allowed to do whatever he wants. He's the one with the flying pants, let him do what he wants to do. But no, these townspeople are like, oh no, he owes us favors, so we can't let him escape. I hate the townspeople in this episode so much! So they chase him out of town, and SpongeBob's almost at Jellyfish Fields when Cannonball Jenkins, Old Man Jenkins in a cannon, and a Daredevil suit, then shoots a cannon, and pops SpongeBob's pants, and he goes crashing to the ground, and the townspeople act like they're remorseful, like they know what they did. And then they just mourn the pants instead of SpongeBob themselves, who they nearly almost killed. Seriously. The townspeople in this episode, they are some of the most hypocritical, unlikable, and self-entitled, selfish a-holes I have seen in all of animation. I hate them in this episode so much. Anywho, moving away from that. SpongeBob then is just like, well, it was fun while it lasted, and he starts to go home, and then the jellyfish decide to do something nice for him. They get underneath of him and fly him home. Where we get to my third highlight of this entire special, which is the third and final song in the episode. I don't know what exactly it's called, its exact title, but this one is a lot like the first song, except it's a lot more low tempo and a lot more, mellow. Very mellow. And SpongeBob's singing is also great here. And it's just so, it's mellow, it's sweet. And the final line when he's like, you don't need a plane to fly. all you need is friendship. Like, it's such a sweet little song, and it's so short at only a minute, but it is so good. It's just such a really nice and pretty song. Probably my favorite part of the whole episode. And then SpongeBob's like, you taught me a valuable lesson, although I'm not quite sure what it was. And then SpongeBob decides to starts going back into his house, and then Patrick shows up. He's like, hey, you want to fly down to the pizza place and grab a slice? And then SpongeBob's like, nope, no more flying for me. And Patrick's like, suit yourself. And then, for no reason whatsoever, now he can just randomly fly without inflated pants. Patrick's so good in this episode. And then SpongeBob's sitting there like, did Patrick just... Hey, nah. And then he goes back into his house, but then he goes back and looks out the window like, did he really just do that? So yeah, that's the animated part of the episode. And it's fine. Like I said, the a-hole townspeople almost completely ruin it. But it has some really nice moments. All three of the songs are very good. Patrick is at his absolute best because he's just so on point and funny, and it's still got that pre-movie charm, even though it has, again, a-hole townspeople, a multitude of unnecessary butt jokes, that dead yo mama meme, and a bunch of other cringy crap. But outside of that, it's still enjoyable. It's still okay. Just wish it was better. Anywho, getting back to the Patchy segments, one other thing I forgot to point out earlier. When Patchy admits he lost the lost episode and he goes to cry about it in the shower, they have a segment called Remembering SpongeBob, which is a big segment treated like a big grand finale of the entire series, because you see clips of SpongeBob from all three of these seasons set to very emotionally odd music, like emotionally forceful. That's the word I was looking for. Emotionally forceful music. And it's treated like a big finale. Which is why I feel like this should have been the last episode of the whole series up to this point, because it is like the big final special. Even though there's still 2 episodes after this, and 1 episode came before it, but I'm not going to talk about that right now. That's for the last review tomorrow. Anywho, moving on from that, getting back to the actual Patchy segment, Patchy then loses the remote when he wants to watch it again. And then he gets hit with the brick a second time, and that gives him the remote, and it turns out it was the old lady from earlier that throws him the remote, and then she's in a wheelchair, and it just randomly turns into a hot rod and flies down the sidewalk, leaving burn mark. That part's weird. And Patchy is just sitting there like, now which one of these doohickeys is the rewind button? And then he starts hitting buttons, and Patchy gets into it. I do like the light switch gag. And then there's even a mariachi band button, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that mariachi band then makes a comeback in the SpongeBob movie, because the model are very similar to their real-life counterparts from this special. But maybe I'm just overthinking it, who knows. But anyway, they keep fighting over the remote as the mariachi band plays, and Patchy hits the button so much that he completely ruins the tape. All the tape comes out of the VHS tape and wraps him around it, and the episode is just lost forever at that point. And then it ends with a very weird final thing from the French narrator. So that was The Sponge Who Could Fly. A very average special. Way better than Party Pooper Pants, absolutely. But still underwhelming, to say the least. For a special that's treated like the big grand finale of the whole series up to this point, it's very disappointing, and it just doesn't measure up. to any of the other specials from pre-movie, like Shanghai and Christmas Who, for example. But it does have some good jokes. Patrick is still at his absolute best here. It has pre-movie charm. It has some good writing, 3 good songs, and the Patchy segments are probably the best in the whole franchise. So it has redeeming qualities, but it has so many detractors, like the townspeople being such a-holes, or the friggin' multitude of filler, or the pacing problems, or just the townspeople. I'm sorry, I've said it a million times and I sound like a broken record, but it's the whole reason why I can't say this episode is good, because the townspeople in this episode are horrible. They're horrible, they're out of character, and I absolutely despise every word that comes out of their mouth in this episode. So yeah, as a special, 10 out of 20 at best, it's okay. Very dead average. And I don't know, it could have been so much better. It has good things in it, it's worth watching at least once, but it doesn't have much replay value, and yeah, if this was supposed to be the big grand finale of the whole series, it's a pretty lame way to go out. However, it's actually not the last, because then there's 2 episodes to follow it, and we're also going to be looking at the episode that got sandwiched in between Missing Identity and the special, which was Plankton's Army. So, yep, that's going to do it for this long-winded, double-length review of Sponge Who Could Fly. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, do all that algorithmic garbage to help the channel grow. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for our big Season 3 finale, a 3-episode discussion with my boy Spider Phantom. Yep. Him and I are going to be talking about the episodes left. Those being SpongeBob Meets the Strangler, Plankton's Army, and Pranks-A-Lot, in a very discussion-like format. So, yep, that's what you have to look forward to tomorrow, but until then, thanks for watching. I'm Jack Small of Animation Station. Remember, it's your #1 stop destination for anything and everything animation, including, in this case, a sponge that lives in a pineapple under the sea. So, that's all I got. Thank you guys for watching, and take care. Hey guys, so, just wanted to add a little extra something here. After I finished my initial recording of this video, I decided to go online and look at other reviews of this episode, see if I'm alone finding it just average with a lot of problems. Well, I found this video by a guy called Media Mementos. I'm going to put the picture of the video on screen right now. And he helps me realize that I've been kind of looking at this episode entirely wrong. And that we're supposed to hate the townspeople, which is why they're such douchebags throughout the whole episode. And how it's a allegory to fame, pretty much. And how this is supposed to be the finale of the series, because back then, they didn't know that the series was going to continue after Season 3, so this was supposed to be their big grand finale. And I still think the episode is a 10 out of 20. This hasn't really changed my mind on me finding it just okay. But it does help me see it in a different light, and I want to give a shout out to this guy for helping me open my eyes a little bit, seeing it in a different light. Is it misunderstood and overhated? Yes. Is it an amazing episode? Absolutely not. It's still just okay, but I did realize after recording that I was probably a little too harsh, especially with me dropping F-bombs constantly about the awful townspeople. But after watching his video, it's really helped me realize that this is an allegory for fame, and that really looking at it deep, through a deeper lens and new eyes and a brand new light, it has definitely made this feel like a much more suitable finale to the original series. Because this was supposed to be one of the big finales, even though the finale of the entire franchise was supposed to be the first movie. But yeah, just wanted to add that little thing in there. Please go follow Media Mementos. Please check out his video about this episode. I will be linking it in the description because it really does help open your eyes to seeing it in a brand new light. So, yeah, just wanted to add this little thing in here. So, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Peace.